Hello, welcome everyone. Here we are today. We are going to talk about creativity and how you can find your creative self. We all have our own creative selves inside of us, and sometimes we don't even know this there. So the idea today is to talk a little more about it and to be able to discover what we could do to start looking for that creative self we all have inside. So one of the things I was thinking about when I set up this webinar, um, one of the main reasons was because I am actually giving some workshops on creativity, and I've been working with people in several companies mostly. And sometimes they say, I'm not a creative, I'm just an administration personnel and administrational staff, and or I work in IT, or some other people think they are not creative at all. And when you ask them, well, what's your hobby? What do you do? And sometimes they play music, or I don't know, they play some sports, some other dance. Um, so I could see that they were actually creative, maybe not just at work or in the thing they professionally did. Sometimes, even in those professions, you have to be creative. For example, if you're a programmer, you have to be able to come up with solutions, and everybody has to come up with solutions too in different areas of life. So um, I thought about it, and I say I used to myself think I was not creative at all, and then I rediscovered myself. I rediscovered my creative self, sorry, in my daily life even, right? So that's the idea, and that's the thing I want to talk with you today about. So maybe you can hear I have a bird at home and she's singing. So, well, she will be doing that music for us today. And I want this to be, if there are some of you that want to give a comment or to talk about right now, I want it to be more like we are in the same room and we are just talking, and I want it to be more familiar. So if somebody wants to take the lead, I'll be happy to. Or if you have any comments, questions, and that kind of thing. So I will keep having on my mate because I have just started it and I don't want to, well, I just want to take some mate. And so I will be talking and having this kind of conversation with you. At first, I thought about making some slides, but I feel that's also, I feel on one side, I feel that making a slides, um, it's okay, of course, because you can have some more information on screen. But otherwise, on the other hand, it also has the demeanor that you're just looking at a screen and you're not actually talking or interacting. So I want to feel like I'm more having an interaction with you or the people that want to participate. So that's why I actually started making some slides, and then I realized, well, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is to be more open to discussion. So, having said that, I did come up a slide. I did come up with some of the slide that actually it was previous because I was thinking, well, what do I want to talk about this time about creativity and how you can find your own creative self. So I came up with this kind of, it's not exactly mind map, but well, this I will be following this, and so we will start with why, the same as Sagnek says, because I think it's the most important question you can ask when you're trying to address a topic. Why this? Why talk about creativity? And for me, I also have found this late times. I've been working with creativity and delivering workshops for about 5 years now or more, and I found that actually it's considered one of the most important skills at work, and companies consider it to be really important. But then when you go to the companies, people feel that they are not creative. They feel that sometimes they can't be creative at their shops because sometimes they have even told me, well, people don't want you to be creative here. They want just you to follow the process. So having said that, is kind of sometimes seems like a contradiction, right? Being creativity one of the most important skills, and then when you have to do the actual work, you're not supposed to be creative. So it's kind of strange. And actually, um, IBM came with a studio a few years ago. I can't remember exactly the time. I think it was 2016. Uh, I've also written about this in my newsletter too. And they say creativity was one of the most three important skills at jobs. It was actually, I think, ranked in some studies. It was the third, and sometimes it was the second or the first. There are different studies, but it was within the three most important, with communication, and the other one, I think, was collaboration. And nobody, or I mean, nobody, no. Not so many people are speaking about creativity, and not so many people are actually working on creativity in their jobs. And I also read the other day in an article at a newspaper. I think it was a magazine. I think it was Time. They were saying that creativity. I mean, all shops that don't involve creativity can be automatic now. So you can have machines to do them because they don't need to be created to resolve those items. And I was also talking to a colleague who lives in Chile, and he told me many of the shops there, because they don't have so many unions, most of the jobs that are simple to do are being taken by robots or by automatization. So if you actually look at that, the things that cannot be automated right now, at least, or in the few, I don't know, 10 years, there have been some studies on that I've been had the opportunity to look at too. Um, for example, in 10 years or in 20 years, we are expected to be more prone to tech jobs. I mean, as humans, like in creative things, communication, also collaboration, things where you actually have to be able to think differently, and you don't have exactly to follow certain process. Because if you have to follow a process that's simple and then maybe taken automatically by a computer or a robot, you'll be out of your shop. So having said that, this sounds kind of scary, but it's actually what's the trend, the actual trend. So that's the number one why I'm doing this workshop, or why I think creativity is really important, is key now to continue with your life even, right? So the other one, number two, well, I guess you're looking at in a mirror, so I don't know if you can look it right. Number two is improving your thinking. it's kind of related with the first one, because if creativity is so important and also helps us improve our thinking differently, thinking more creatively, um, being more innovative. So it would also be difficult for us to be replaced somehow, and we will be actually more useful to society, to innovation, to our countries, to the world, right? And which is actually the third one. Creativity is global. It's needed for the fourth world, for everyone in the world to be applied. If you are an entrepreneur, you know that. You know that to sustain your business, you need to be creative. You need to come up with different strategies or ideas for your product to be known, to be useful, to be liked by your clients. And I think those three reasons are actually very important, and um, and are really good reasons to be exploring yourself and your thoughts and your own ideas and your, I said, your inner creative, because we all have that. But sometimes we have our creative person inside sleep, right? So, well, those are the reasons I consider for you to be a creative, or to explore that creative inside of you. But of course, you might have your own reasons. So, the question I would ask to you, or to everyone who wants to contribute to this topic, would be, why do you want to be creative? Creative, sorry. If you want to be creative. If you don't want to be creative, which is I found it hard to believe. Why? Also, why you consider you don't need anything else to be creative, or you don't need to be creative? Um, and as I said before, you are already a creator, or a creative person. It's just that maybe you don't realize it, or you don't care, or you haven't found the need yet. Anyway, um, that's the question I want to address you. So think about it. It may help you decide what you want to do in the near future. If it doesn't help, just discard it and go on with your thing, and that's all right too. Right? It's a matter of decision and choice. Okay. So the other thing I was thinking about for today was who I am addressing this to. So at first, I thought what people I generally work with are with coaches, therapists, facilitators, and that kind of people. Mm. But and also curious people, which is one of the keys to be creative. We will be talking about this. But I would say everybody needs to be creative, or needs to be innovative, needs to go on doing things differently now, or different things in their lives, at work. And so I think everybody could benefit from the stock. And having said that, so today will be, you may find it kind of a generic talk, because it's just the introduction of the first webinar I'm planning to do. So, having said that, I will be introducing some better like concepts about what's creativity, types of personality that are also related to creativity, types of personality that are said not to be creative. We'll see on that. and how you can apply it to your business or your career, with the people around you, or maybe just for your hobbies. If you're just curious and want to challenge yourself and want to learn some other skills, because there's kind of a correlation between people who want to be creative or who are creative and curiosity. If they generally tend to be very curious, and I don't want to generalize by saying that everybody who's creative is also curious, but I would say that's kind of a pretty important percentage. So I will have another mate instead of water. In Argentina, you and Uruguay and Paraguay, you can have mate. So other thing I was thinking about was some interesting things. I would say I call it the what. I always start with those questions because I think they are the most important questions we can ask when we are trying to generally do something. So, what? What about creativity? What about your creative self? Well, some things that I found interesting is about personalities. There have been some studies run by the Toronto University in Canada, specifically by Jordan Peterson. You may have heard of that man. He's kind of famous. And he was asked once about the types of personalities that are more related to being creative. And he said there are some traits to personality. For example, he said that people who are more open to new ideas, are more open to talk to others. He specifically told extroverts are more creative. I personally don't quite agree with that because I've seen various introverts being very, very creative, and they don't just go and talk to everyone, but they are open. They are open even if they don't talk to everyone. So, having said that, there are also ambiverts. So there are people that go out and talk with others and then comes back home and just does his or her thing and, and thinks alone. And so they have the two sides, being extroverts sometimes and being introverts other times. So I personally don't consider that being an extrovert is kind of requisite for being a creative person. But that's me, and of course I didn't do any study, and this guy has done a study, so that's I can only say my opinion about that. Um, Another thing he said that, for example, very structured people are not creative, which I also disagree sometimes because there are people who are very structured in certain ways and there are completely unstructured in others. For example, I found myself being very structured when I don't know, I tend to put everything into categories, and then I don't know, if I have to solve a problem, I tend to write about it and have certain things that I realize I do. But I'm completely unstructured in other things. So categorization is not quite a thing I like to do. I personally don't like to do. But it's said that people who are very structured cannot be creative. That's what some studies say. Anyway, you'll have to do your own investigation and find out yourself what you want to believe in. That's it. I don't know. And he was saying, for example, that lawyers are not creative at all, which I again disagree. There are some things I agree with, by the way. I will tell you then, but I disagree with that in the sense that I've seen lawyers that are very creative because yes, they have to be so structured and they have to be, I don't know the law by memory, I think. I don't know. But they can actually go and think strategies. If you just can think of strategies to win a case or to be able to help your defendant to go out successfully in this what's the name in this trial, um, I think you have to use your creativity. So maybe we could talk about different types of creativity, but that's another complete different topic, I think. And I have, now that I think, I haven't thought about that. That's interesting. Types of creativity, right? I will actually take notes on that. And let me take notes. Types of creativity. Okay, so as you can see, I'm very unstructured, completely unstructured when I'm delivering workshops or when I'm talking to people, maybe, or when I'm having this. I like it to be unstructured, so you don't have to stay to a certain slide and talk just about it. I was just saying. But I totally get when there are people that's too structured. That's just a way of a choice of life, I would say, right? So, um, talking back about creativity, personalities and creativity. Um, he specifically, I mean, Jordan Peterson specifically said that people who are open to new ideas, they are creative. And yeah, yes, I agree with that. Because people who are open to new ideas, to listen to different things, to be more curious about the world, you are actually open when you are curious because you say, oh, I hadn't considered that. Uh, how else could I don't know, combine this thing I already know with the thing you are saying me? So that's actually interesting because when you stay curious, you stay actually open. You can, even if you're curious, but you don't completely understand what the other people or something you're reading or some other input you're having, you may not completely understand it, but you are curious to know more about it and to know how you could maybe not just now, but you can somehow use that thing you learned in the past or you learned in a book or you maybe just were just reading or listening to a story and then somehow you start to connect different things. uh, I think you may have heard Steve Jobs talking about connecting the dots and that you can only connect them backwards when the things just it just happened some time ago. And there are things that, for example, Edward de Bono, he's one of the most known person to be able to study so deeply creativity, and he was also a doctor. I mean, a medical doctor, an MD, and he studied creativity for different points of view. And one of the things he said was that actually being open to curiosity and to knowing uh, that some call random facts or random ideas that can actually help you sometime when you are trying to be more creative or trying to be to come up with new ideas. So I think being more open is kind of the most important thing that you can consider if you want to be a creative or you want to develop your creative self. So, having said that, one of the things that in the some interview I heard with Jordan Peterson, he said that contrarians cannot be creative at all, which is something I may have a doubt about, but I kind of agree with him because Contrarians, of course, are close to new ideas. When you say X, they will say yes, but X has this problem and that other problem, and they will just stay at that. So if you say X, they will say Y. If you say black, they will say white, and they are not open to reconsider their position. That's the main thing that contrarians have. However, having said that, contrarians are a good source for people who are open because, for example, when you facilitate a brainstorm or you want to come up with new ideas, you have to have a contrarian in the room because they are the black hat you need to in order to come up with new ideas and to test things if they will work or won't work. You have to have at least one. I would say just one because they sometimes get too too positioned in the hat. So as you know, um, Eduardo Bono created this technique that's called the six thinking hats, and one of the hats is the black one. That's the contrarian, the things that won't work, the all the bad things that may happen with the idea that you are trying to evaluate. So yes, this hat. If you're not a contrarian, maybe you can wear the hat for the situation, right? And that's good too. And of course, we are contrarians in different stages of our life or in different aspects of our life. I consider myself a contrarian in several ways, but I try to set an alarm or a light. So I say, I'm being a contrarian in this, and then lights, a bulb lights up in my head, and I say, oh, I'm being a contrarian here. You have to be aware of it. Well, you don't have to, but you can learn if you want it. Um, I also try to make a distinction on that because it's always a matter of choice. You don't have to be anyone you don't want to be. So that's okay. So coming back to the main topic. So contrarians are kind of closed sometimes, and maybe it's harder for them to be creative because they are closed. And sometimes they tend to not be curious. And that's where they might be missing something for their creative states to develop. Well, those are things about personality, and wow, I've been talking too much. I don't know if I will be able to cover all the topics I wanted to, which I'll actually at first I thought there were too few. Sorry, but I guess we'll be all right. Okay, so um, well, you may say artists are all creative, but is that so really? Um, Maybe not all artists are creative. What I mean by this is you can be an artist. You can, for example, dance. You can, for example, I don't know, paint. You can and be considered an artist, but you don't actually have to be creative to do that. For example, in my case, when I started to dance, I was not creative. Well, we are talking in that specific field. I was not that creative at dancing. I just followed a choreography because I didn't feel I had the skills yet to be creative. So, for example, I couldn't improvise, right? And that's a stage that happens to everybody when learning something new. So even artists are not creative sometimes. They just do what they are used to do or what they have been told at university, if they have gone to university, and they just do their style, and that's all they do. or that happens too in photography. They just take pictures and that's it, and they don't add their personal spice to the mixture. So, or they don't come up with their own style, or even when you come up with your own style. For example, Picasso, when he was of course creative because he created his own style. But when you sometimes come up with your own style, you get stuck there, and you get, well, I'm this is what I do, and that's it. That's also the stage of the expert, right? If you don't, if you believe that you're an expert in whatever area you are an expert, and you don't want to try anything new, then you are just an expert in that field, and you don't have to be creative. You just know everything that you have to do in that field, and that's okay. You are the expert. That's it. And it happens to for artists. They just become the experts in certain activity, and that's just what they do. They don't have to create anything new. Of course, it varies from person to person. Maybe they're just comfortable doing that, and that's perfect. Once again, it's a matter of choice. But there are some other people who are all the time questioning themselves and wanting to achieve the impossible. I was watching the other day. Oh, I can't well remember the name of this lady. She's a fashion designer, and was saying that she actually wants to all do some things that are quite impossible. Maybe you won't see her fashion around the streets because she works with kind of different materials, and she wanted, for example, to create some dresses that were that looks like water in movement, for example, like splash and those kind of things. And it was kind of weird the things she was doing, working with weird materials. But that's being creative. In most of the time, when you're being creative, you're not understood. I mean, it doesn't have to be at all the cases, but sometimes they are not understood, or they're not so famous at the time because they're doing such one thing and another and another and another, and all the time creating different things, which is actually the creative spirit, right? Mm. Well, but that's not the point. The point is that if you want to keep on being creative, doing different things, different things, it's also an option. And it's well, you could be an expert in your field if you wanted. You say, I want to become to this level of creative, and I'm an expert in that, and I'm fine with it. That's perfect. And but of course, I would say not all artists are creative just because of that. And why should I be an artist, or could I be an artist, or why would I be interested in being an artist if I don't want to? Just forget it. If you don't want to, just do your thing. But if you are actually considering to understand at least some principles about being creative, or how you can think differently, because it might assist you at your own job, your own work, then you can, of course, look for different things you could do, right? Like one of the things you could do is learn a different activity. I mean, for being a creative, you don't have to be the latest great Van Gogh, or the I don't know, a Baryshnikov, or to be a Sean Cage at music. No, you don't have to be recognized or being famous, or No, you just can do your thing and you can be applying your creativity to your daily work, to your daily life. Um, Let me give you an example. Well, it will be about myself too. But yeah, I know I have some experience. One of my mentors say I'm an expert. I've been me, so most of the things I can come up with are from my own experience, and that was I can actually talk about. So um, one of the things I realized I was wow, that's kind of creative, right? When I thought I was a complete structure person a few years back. I mean, well, 10 years back or so. And now I realize I can be creative and I can come up with things that you may consider silly, but I consider that kind of awesome. For example, when I'm just I don't know embroidering or some costumes to dance for dance or for taking pictures, which is some new activity I have started with some friends here, taking pictures, artistical pictures of ourselves with different topics. And I actually realized, wow, that's nice that we can have some ideas and also be able to take them into practice. For example, with making some hats and I don't know, making the costumes and something completely new for us, at least for me. And so I try to do, and which this also may help you. I try to be creative by being curious, just be curious about everything almost. So, for example, the other day I saw a workshop about how to be able to knit or crochet in a metallic material. This is wire, and I just been practicing something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just by doing something different, it helps you see things in a different way. So, as I was saying, you don't have to start a course in painting or that kind of thing, but you can just do little things a day or from time to time, once a month. I try to take one of these workshops about creativity. Maybe sometimes it's with wire, some other time is collage. I don't know, different things. And I just to try to do these kind of things that you can see it's absolutely not perfect. It's the other way around. And but just being able to doodle, to draw, to embroider, to sing, whatever it is that you want, it changes your mind somehow. It helps you to be more open, to stay more curious on other things. And, and there are so many things around the world that you can do. You can start on your own. You can start with friends. You can look for a mentor. Um, so being a curious person, that's part of the how, actually. The how you can do that. How can I be more creative? How can I find my creative self? If you're just all the time doing the same thing, you will never come up with something new. So the best way to be creative or to start thinking of being creative, to start thinking differently, is by doing hobbies, doing different things in your life. Um, what I have realized is that, for example, when I started to dance, it was just a specific dance, and then I said I don't want to be a professional in dancing. I just want to know different things and combine them and be able to improvise. That's one of the things also here that we will be talking about: playing, experimenting, improvisation, being curious, really. And I think that being able to combine all the things, maybe completely different things, but you learn. For example, when you start to learn to dance, your mind changes. because you do things that you wouldn't normally do sitting at your office. You start to, I don't know, uh, elevating your arms. You start to dissociate part of your body, and every dance is different. And if you are starting, for example, you don't have to dance, you can sing. If you want to sing, for example, I'm taking some singing classes right now, and there are so many things I didn't know about myself, about the body, about and even if you are a dancer, you are supposed to know certain things, how to move your arms, but that's completely different. It's another world. And if you want to learn, in this case, how to work with wire, you can do that, and that's another whole topic. So every little things that you start to do gives you different perspective on how things work. And beside of that, you meet other people, you meet your professors that have completely different minds one from another, and they can also help you see things in a different way, from other perspective, from um, yes, from it's completely different world, and that will give you more openness, to more openness to be able to create your own thing, right? Maybe I won't in my life be able to use this wire thing in other stuff, but I think it has given me some ideas. For example, when I went to this workshop, the professor that was there, the facilitator and professor, she is from university. She graduated on arts, and she's also experimenting with different textiles and different techniques, and she's also working with plastic, and she showed me so different things I had ever in my life imagined that those were kind of things, and was actually very creative and very enlightening to know there are different techniques on things. And well, I'm kind of a curious person, so it was actually amazing for me. So if you want to be creative and to stay open, as I'm saying right now, I'll get a bit more serious talking about shops now, but I'm also working with agile methods, as you some of you may know, and this kind of agility is coming to right now. It's kind of mainstream thing, so it's taking over the world, I would say, and people is afraid. Is afraid of. I don't want to do anything new at my shop, and I can see their faces. But when you show them, that's not that scary to try new things, and not that scary to be able to fail even, because I this is not perfect at all. You can see the things I'm doing here. They're not perfect at all, but you're just trying new things. You're like a child with 5 years. You remember how you used to ride your bike and go outside and climb trees. Some of you might even have some concussion from for having climbed some trees and falling down. And that's the idea, to be able to exploration, to improvisation, to experiment things, to play, just to play. Imagine you are playing, and yes, of course, jobs are serious and are to be taken seriously. Of course, when I'm working with teams, we have a certain objective we want to go to, and we better get it. But in the process, you have to be able to be open to just play and just have fun also. And of course, work when it's time to work, right? But as I was saying, creativity is rated as one of the most important skills at your shop, maybe. Yeah. So if you don't want or you are not interested in being creative, um, maybe it can be considered a bad thing. I mean, maybe not today, but in a near future it will, I believe, because as you can see, robots, computers, and machines are taking the world. And I don't want to be catastrophic prophet, but I can see that that kind of thing. Even now, machines can be creative too. So maybe in the future, even creatives won't have any job at all. Um, and they can be creative because they can relate randomness. As I was saying, you start to relate randomness to be creative, and machines can actually do that nowadays. Yes, artificial intelligence is being programmed to do that, to learn, to be able to combine things. So maybe in a few years' time, just being creative will not also be enough. But for now, being creative is kind of a thing that's scarce and is also needed, especially creativity combined with collaboration and creativity combined with communication. You have to be able to communicate to others what you want to do. So, but that's another topic, and today is about creativity. So, how could you use something of that? Well, we've been talking mostly about the strategic part, or why should you, or could, I mean, you do these things. Why are it would be good to be creative, or why is kind of the purpose, the objective, why you want to be creative, and that's the strategic part. The tactics are how you can do that. And most of the time, we just go to the tactics. I see that with teams, for example, they just want to do a brainstorm and that's just it. But you want to go deeper than that if you want to really succeed. Because coming up with ideas, everybody can do that. There may just be lame ideas. That's another thing. If you want to come up with really good ideas, really things that may be helpful. And as one of the things we were saying, why? Because the world needs helpful things. We have so many difficult problems right now. They're wicked problems that that will take more than a creative person to be solved if we want to, or even if you can solve them. We don't know. Like climate change. Other things are poverty, things we haven't taken much attention or paid much attention to, but are huge problems for us as human beings. And if you are interested in helping solve that, or in at least trying to do something different, you will need this skill to be a part of you. Yes, there are some other people I'm thinking, because one person told me, yes, but I have to be creative out of my work time, because at work I cannot be creative, and I love being creative. I leave that part of me for a time I shop, and that's perfect too, because you are somehow practicing your creative skill, even if you can't do it at work. You are doing it on your spare time, and because you like it. And yes, even in that cases, you could do that at home. So let's go down now to a tactile level. I would like to share with you some ideas for you to start. Beside the ones I was saying, that going to different things, reading different about different topics, going to different workshops you might be interested in. For creativity, doesn't mean that you have to go to places that you don't want to go. You don't have to learn to dance if you don't like dancing. You can, I don't know, if you are interested in electronics, you can take a course on that, right? Or if you are interested in, I don't know, how machines work, maybe you want to try out at home and do something new. So it's completely up to you about where or what you want to know about. And that's also being creative. It doesn't have to be painting or dancing or the things we take as creatives to be creatives. So as I was saying, artists don't always have to be creative. So maybe you want to, I don't know, solve some problems. Every creative person is able to solve problems. So I kind of remember Bjork now. You know, she's considered one of the most creative person in the world, and she actually said she considers their family to be the creative ones. So, and they're people who make repairs at homes, and I think they build fireplaces and that kind of thing. And she said they are all amazing creatives. Their family, and she doesn't consider herself that creative as we I mean, may as fans or as viewers or admirers, whatever you want to call yourself about that girl, right? And so, as you know, everyone can be a creative person. And I wanted to leave you with a challenge. Uh, the first thing you have to think about is why you want to be creative, if you want to be creative. And that would be the strategic part. And now the tactics. Besides going to workshops and that kind of thing, you can do this little thing every day at home. I will actually start with a challenge that's not set by me. It's set by Alice in Wonderland. You remember Alice in Wonderland? Well, she used to say, at least also in the movies, she said, think about six impossible things before six impossible things before breakfast. So that's kind of a very good challenge to be able to get. But I will get it more easy for you. I will give you even an easier exercise. Just think only about one thing you could do differently in your daily life. I mean, for example, if you every time you wash your hands, you do this movement, you know. For example, when I wash my hands, I always take the soap and I do this and I wash it. Try to do it the other way. Try to put your other hand differently, just that, and see what it feels like, right? And then say, oh, okay, how could I improve this? Maybe the next day. I don't know. Just first of all, watch yourself, then observe how you are doing this. That's the first day. It's easy. The next one, do it the opposite way, and the next one, maybe think how you could do that differently, and then with a crazy idea. Maybe you could say, well, what if I had my hands, I don't know, washed by my neighbor? I don't know. That's just a crazy idea I had right now. But you can do that and you can think about different ideas. It doesn't mean you have to actually do them, but just by thinking differently, thinking about crazy ideas, I think you can get more creative. And you can start your journey in finding your creative self. So, if any one of you is interested in being more creative, I have a lot of exercises and things I love to do to be more open to new ideas, to do some crazy stuff sometimes. And I'm starting a project on how to be more creative. And I have a set of challenges that are also very varied. So you will have to be really open. I mean, um, they won't embarrass you if you are not that open. But I have some really good challenges for you to try. So if you are interested, give me a message, send me a message, or I will leave my also the group we are in and we talk about creativity. I will leave down in the comments. It's creativity and tools for facilitators and therapists, coaches, but it's open for almost everybody. So at first I thought it was only for change agents, but then we are open to everybody who wants to be creative and to want to learn some tools. If you want to learn some tools, they are posted on Fridays. And during the week, we are sharing some things that are kind of cool between us. And I also try to write a little bit of things that come on my mind and may be some triggers for you to create new things. Who knows, right? And so if you want to join the group, you are welcome, more than welcome. And I will be, as I'm saying, also starting some challenges for you. So if you are open to that, just send me an email or send me a message through Facebook or any social network, and I will be more than happy to share with you some things, and maybe we can also extend it through the world. That's the idea, to everybody be more open and creative. I hadn't had the time right now to say anything about some of the things I wanted to say to you about creativity related to business and to science and what to do when you get stuck. But I want to talk more with you in these sessions. Maybe we can do once a month. I'm not sure. It's the first one right now, but I really like to for you to meet me in this project I'm starting. So if you are up for any challenge and you are open enough to and curious to be more creative, I have some very cool ideas that we can work on. And if you want to know more, contact me. And another thing, if you want to look some experiments or things I've been doing, also give me a message, because I don't quite well. I just share them via Instagram or Facebook, but I'm planning on doing more. So that's another thing. Well, I haven't. I'm thinking right now that I haven't shared so many of the things I've been doing about creativity workshops. Maybe we can talk a little more about that. How to do a creativity workshop? What are some of the tools that I use, and how to get people involved. So maybe we will have to set another topics like communication and that kind of thing. How to get people to be more open, which is something that I really love. And I would love to do an open workshop. Maybe I can do that. An open workshop with people. I don't know if in a specific site, or maybe we can do it online. Well, we'll see. But if you are interested, please send me an email or a message or whatever, and we'll stay in touch and plan something interesting. So have fun. I hope you like this conversation. I wish I could have sent more people involved in this conversation. I would really love to for you to be. I don't know if you want to, of course. To be able to have a chat with you, to have some conversations and some questions asked. But for now, it's Perfect. So thank you very much for watching, and hope you to see you on board this project. Right? And maybe I can help you with your other projects too. So have fun, and thank you very much for being there. Bye bye.